Second part of our discussion regarding the general equilibrium theory. In the first part, we discussed the general equilibrium of exchange, wherein we were arriving at the equilibrium that will be achieved between two consumers consuming two different products, and how do we allocate the two products among the two consumers. And the condition that we arrived for the general equilibrium of exchange was the fact that the marginal rate of substitution between the two goods should be equal for both consumer A and consumer B. Now, these products that are distributed among the two consumers, there's another dimension to these products, which is the dimension with regard to how these products are being produced. The general equilibrium of production investigates the allocation of the different inputs that are going to be used in producing the products which the consumers are buying in the marketplace. So one side of it is how the products are distributed among the producers. The other part of the same story is we would like to know how these products are being manufactured. In other words, uh, how are the various inputs being distributed in the manufacture of these products. So this is what the general equilibrium of production seeks to explore and find as to what exactly is going to be the equilibrium situation with regard to the production of these two products, in the sense that how are the inputs distributed for the production of the two products that the consumers are buying in the marketplace. This is what the general equilibrium of production deals with, and afterwards we'll be combining both the general equilibrium of exchange and the general equilibrium of production to arrive at the general equilibrium of exchange and production, wherein we will be having the equilibrium simultaneously of both the uh, the the, uh, the production side as well as the consumer side. So let's first of all look at the case of general equilibrium of production. We shall now investigate as to how we can arrive at the conditions with regard to the general equilibrium of production. As we mentioned previously, we are talking about the manner in which the goods that the consumers are buying in the marketplace are being produced. So we will be concerned with the distribution or the use of inputs in the production of the goods that the consumers are buying in the marketplace. So as we've already used as an example, we have two different goods, good X and good Y, which the consumers are buying. Good X is clothing and good Y is food. So these are two goods that are being produced that we will be exploring as to how will the production be carried out with regard to these two goods as part of the arriving at the conditions for general equilibrium of production. Now the two inputs that we are that we consider with regard to the production of any given output are going to be labor and capital. So the question is how much of labor and how much of capital is used in the production of clothing, and how much of labor and how much of capital is going to be used in the production of food. And there is going to be a certain total amount of labor and a total amount of capital that is going to be available for allocation or distribution among the production of these two goods. So the question that we seek to answer is, in what way will we be able to allocate capital and labor out of the total amount available among the production of good X and good Y in the most efficient manner possible. So that is the question that we seek to answer as part of the general equilibrium of production. So here again we are having the Edgeworth box diagram. We have good X on the left hand side, left hand corner, and good Y on the top right corner of the Edgeworth box diagram, and we have labor on the x-axis and we have capital on the y-axis. We have a total number of 9 units of labor and also 9 units of capital that have to be allocated among the production of these two goods. So that is the question that we will be trying to answer. Now let's again start with an initial point, which is a point like point P, where the marginal rates of technical substitution in the production of these two goods X and Y are not equal to each other. Now at P, what we find is that there is, as far as good X is concerned, we are using 1 unit of labor and we are using 7 units of capital. So in other words, there is a relatively larger amount of capital that is being used in the production of good X, which is clothing. Now, since there is an abundance of capital in the production of good X, what we are likely to find is the fact that the relative importance in terms of the productivity of labor is going to be higher, since the amount of labor that is being used is too small. Therefore, the relative marginal productivity of labor as compared to the marginal productivity of capital in the manufacture of clothing is likely to be higher as compared to the relative marginal productivity of labor to capital in the production of food, because of the fact that we are using far too less of labor and far too much of capital in the production of clothing. So this is one situation in which there is likely to be a reallocation of labor and capital among the production of these two goods or these two commodities, so that we are able to deploy the input in the production of that particular good where it has a relatively higher productivity, where we can achieve a greater amount of efficiency in the production of the output of that particular commodity. So in this case, what we're observing is that at point P, there is a relatively a higher, greater marginal productivity of labor in the production of clothing as compared to the production of food. So it makes sense for the producer of clothing to hire more labor and give up capital. The reverse is true in the case of food. In the case of food, we are using too much of labor. We are using 8 units of labor and we are using too less of capital. And so here, for the producer of food, it makes sense to give up labor and exchange it for more capital. So this is an opportunity for exchange of the two inputs in the production of the two given commodities. So this is what we shall be looking at in the case of a modification of the inputs that are being involved or used in the production of the two different outputs of the two goods. Eventually, we would like to arrive at a point where these marginal rates of technical substitution are equal to each other. In other words, the relative marginal productivities of labor to capital in the production of the two goods are equal, because that would imply that there is no further need of modifying the input mix in the case of either of the two products. So we can move from point P to point R or point S or point T or point U in order to be able to arrive at a situation where the marginal rates of technical substitution for the two inputs are equal to each other in the production of the two goods. Now let's examine this further. Let us now look at how we can achieve greater efficiency by moving from point P to a different allocation of labor and capital for the production of the goods of X and Y. As we have discussed earlier, at point P, there's a greater degree of marginal productivity of labor for the production of um, clothing, and there's a greater marginal productivity of capital for the production of food. So it makes more sense for us to be able to transfer some of the excess labor from the production of food. So we are currently having 8 units being employed in the production of food. Some of this can be transferred to the production of clothing. And similarly, as far as clothing is concerned, there's an excess amount of capital which can be transferred to the production of food. How exactly will this change in the distribution of labor and capital take place is what we are going to be looking at. Now, the points where we are assuming that the marginal rate of technical substitution of labor for capital for the two goods X and Y are equal are these alternative points, which is R, S, T, and U. So the possible equilibrium options that are available after moving from point P, wherein the marginal productivities are different, are any of these 4 points wherein we could have alternative possibilities of equilibrium. Now let us discuss what is the implication of moving from point P to point R, or point P to point S, or point P to point T, or point P to point U. Now the manufacturer of clothing is looking for a higher amount of labor, and the manufacturer of food is looking for a higher amount of capital. Now if we move from point P to point R, we observe the fact that there's an increase in the labor input for the clothing by 2 units and a decrease in the capital input by 5 units. So the implication is the fact that the producer of clothing gets 2 units of labor and has to pay for it by 5 units of capital. These 5 units of capital get transferred to the production of good Y. Earlier, the good Y was using 2 units of capital. Now, good Y is using 7 units of capital. So the producer of clothing sacrifices 5 units of capital, which goes into gets transferred to the production of Y, and in turn he gains 2 units of labor. Now what is going to be the implication of this? The implication of this is the fact that the manufacturer of clothing, if you move from point P to point R, remains at his original level of output, which is 10 units. On the other hand, since he is sacrificing a large amount of capital for these 2 units of labor, the output of food is able to rise from 10 to 18. So whereas the level of output of clothing remains as at 10, the level of output of food rises from 10 to 18 because we have a large amount of capital that is transferred by the clothing manufacturer towards the manufacture of food. So this is one alternative equilibrium possibility. The other possibility is that we move from point P to point S. In this case, what we find is that the amount of gain as far as labor is concerned will be greater, and the amount of sacrifice that the producer is having to make with regard to the capital is smaller. So he is able to extract a greater amount of labor in return for sacrificing a smaller amount of capital when he is redistributing the inputs, when we are redistributing the inputs from the production of food to the production of clothing. So this is the other alternative possibility. So we can look at it again just like we looked at it in the for the general equilibrium of exchange. We can look at it in terms of the right angle triangles. So in the first case, in the movement from P to R, the gain is this gain in terms of labor, and the sacrifice of capital is given by the perpendicular of this right angle triangle. So the movement from P to R implies that there is a substantial sacrifice of capital which gets transferred to food, and in return for a very, very small amount of labor that gets transferred from food to clothing. So this is as far as the possibility of moving from point P to point R is concerned. The other possibility is that we move from point P to point S. Now in this case, how much of labor are we able to shift from food to clothing, and how much of capital do we have to in return sacrifice? This can again be shown in the form of a right angle triangle. Over here, as we will notice, the gain of labor, we are able to attract a greater amount of labor, and we have to give up a smaller amount of capital. And in this case, therefore, we are able to produce a larger level of output because, as we've already discussed, labor is more productive in the production of clothing, and we are able to transfer a larger amount of labor from the production of food to the production of clothing, and as a consequence our output is able to rise from 10 to 15, and we are sacrificing a smaller amount of capital in favor of food. And so instead of food production increasing to 18, food production only increases to 17. So this is the other alternative possibility. The other possibility is that we move from point P to point T. In this case, there's an even greater amount of transfer of labor to the production of food, and there's an even smaller amount of transfer of capital to food. So in this case, therefore, there will be an even greater positive impact as far as the production of clothing is concerned, and on the output of food, we'll have an even smaller amount of output of food. So the point is that the alternatives with regard to the uh, equilibrium will really depend on the manner in which the exchange of labor and capital takes place between the different possibilities that are existing. The greater is the amount of labor that can be transferred to the production of clothing, the greater will be the impact on the production of clothing. And so this is the extreme case where we are having the maximum possible rise in the production of clothing, whereas the output of food remains at 10. So if we move from point P to point U, we are able to extract the largest amount of labor from food to clothing, and so therefore we are able to increase the output of food from 10 to 18, whereas the amount of food production stays constant at 10. So this is the other extreme possibility wherein we only have a rise in the production of clothing and we don't have any change in the production of food. So in this manner, we can arrive at alternative possible equilibria where there will be the equality between the marginal rates of technical substitution between labor and capital of X and Y. It really depends on the extent to which the labor inputs can be transferred from food to clothing, or the terms at which the labor can be transferred from uh, food to the manufacture of clothing, and vice versa, the transfer of labor of capital from clothing to food. So for instance, if we look at it from the perspective of production of food, the first possibility is that we stay at the original level of production of food, but we only increase the production of clothing. So this is the maximum amount of sacrifice that a producer of food can do with regard to labor. So he's sacrificing 7 units of labor and he's only getting 1 unit of capital in return for 7 units of labor. So that is one possibility. The other possibility is that he moves from point P to point T. In this case, the sacrifice of capital will be smaller and the gain of sacrifice of labor will be smaller and the gain of capital will be greater. So these are the alternative possibilities from the perspective of the production of food. So it really depends on the extent to which the producer of food or the producer of clothing can bargain among themselves about the redistribution of labor and capital, and any of these uh, equilibria are possible. Where exactly we end up will really depend on the extent to which labor or capital can be attracted to the production of clothing or to the production of food. Now, the extent to which labor or capital can be attracted to the production of the goods will really depend on the conditions that are existing with regard to the demand of these goods in the output market. So the greater is the demand for a particular good in the output market, the greater will also be the demand for the inputs that are being used for the production of that good. So in this case, for instance, if we assume that there's a greater demand for food, in that case, there will be a greater transfer of capital for each unit of labor towards the production of food, and we will move more towards the direction of increasing the output of food, because inputs will move more favorably in the direction of that commodity which is being demanded more in the marketplace. So it really is dependent on ultimately the conditions that are existing with regard to the demand in the marketplace, that we will have a particular point out of these alternative possibilities of R, S, T, and U being reached as a consequence of the redistribution of labor and capital among the production of these two goods, which is X and Y. Finally, this is our illustration of the movement from the Pareto inefficiency point, which is point P, to any of the other points which are Pareto efficient. If you were to connect all the points of Pareto efficiency, which are essentially the points where the isochords are tangential to each other, these points form what is known as a connection. A line connecting these points is referred to as the contract curve for production, which is also known as a Pareto optimal path. And these are all points where you have general equilibrium of production, or these are points of Pareto efficiency, wherein we are having the isochords being tangential to each other, where we end up, whether we end up closer to R or we end up closer to U, as we've mentioned, really depends on the kinds of conditions that are existing on the demand side of the economy. If there's a greater demand for a particular product, uh, there will also be a greater demand for its inputs, because of the fact that there is a greater marginal revenue that can be realized by selling the output of that particular industry. And so we will be able to employ a larger number of a larger amount of inputs as far as the product that is in greater demand is concerned, because it also commands higher revenues. And so there will also be a greater demand for the input that is going into the production of the product that is being demanded to a greater extent. The other thing that we will notice from this illustration is the fact that, for instance, if we are moving from point R to point S, now a movement from point R to point S involves a sacrifice of 1 unit of output of food, and in return we are having a rise of 5 units of output of clothing. So we are having to sacrifice 1 unit of output of food, and in return for that we are able to increase the output of clothing substantially. If you move from point S to point T, then in this case the output of food falls by 2 units, and the output of clothing also increases by 2 units. So the amount of increase that we are getting for each unit sacrifice of food that we are getting is falling. which means that as inputs are getting transferred from one product to another, we are getting a lesser and lesser efficiency in terms of the output that we are getting, which is following essentially from the fact that the marginal productivity of labor will, there will be a diminishing marginal productivity that we will be observing. So as more and more labor gets transferred from food to clothing, we will have a smaller and smaller effect on the output of clothing. In other words, we'll have to make greater and greater sacrifices of food in order to make larger and larger amounts of clothing, because as you transfer labor from food to clothing, it becomes less and less efficient. So these combinations of the different possible outputs of clothing and food that are on the contract curve of production can be represented in the form of a production possibility curve, which we shall be looking at now. This is the production possibility curve, which is comprising the plot of all the points or all the output combinations that are lying on the contract curve for exchange. So the points which are lying on the production possibility curve are all derived from the contract curve of exchange. And as we were discussing earlier, the extent to which we need to sacrifice one output of one commodity for the other progressively increases. So these are essentially points which are comprising the different output possibilities that we were looking at in the Edgeworth box diagram as well. So we move from 10 to 15 after a sacrifice of 1 unit of y, and then in the next movement, which is from S prime to T prime, we are able to increase output of by only 2 units for a 2-unit sacrifice of the output of y. So progressively the amount of sacrifice that we are going to have to make with regard to the to be able to increase the production of the other good will tend to increase, and as a consequence the shape of the production possibility curve is going to be, if you were to look at it from the origin, the shape is a concave shape. So the production possibility curve is having a shape which is concave in nature because of the fact that there is a lower and lower efficiency of inputs as they get transferred from one commodity to the production of the other commodity. Another point to note is that any point inside the contract curve is going to be a point which is basically a point which is Pareto inefficient. So like the point from where we started as our discussion regarding the Edgeworth box diagram, which was a point where the marginal rates of technical substitution were not equal to each other for the output of the two commodities, and we can move from a point which is Pareto inefficient to either a situation where output of only good X increases, good Y stays the same, or output of only good Y increases, whereas good X stays constant, or somewhere in between where outputs of both of the two uh, goods are increasing. So this is what the production possibility curve looks like, which is essentially the outcome of our discussion regarding the general equilibrium of exchange, which plots the various output combinations that are Pareto efficient, which are on the contract curve of exchange. The slope of the production possibility curve is called the marginal rate of transformation of X for Y, or MRT X for Y, which is the amount of sacrifice that you need to make of the output of y for any given increase in the output of x. And what we find is that the slope of this production possibility curve progressively increases as we move from the left to the right, which is to say that the amount of sacrifice that you need to make of good y progressively increases for each increase in the uh, uh, production of good X. So this is known as the marginal rate of transformation, which is the slope of the production possibility curve, which we can find by drawing a tangent at any given point on the PP curve, which will give us the slope of the PP curve at that particular point. The other aspect regarding the marginal rate of transformation is the fact that mathematically speaking, it is equal to the ratio of the marginal cost of x to the marginal cost of y. So the amount of sacrifice that you need to make of y per unit of x is equal to the ratio of the marginal cost of x to the marginal cost of y. So this is a mathematical uh, uh, formula that we are not deriving, but essentially what we are saying is the fact that there is, relatively speaking, there's going to be a larger and larger uh, incurring of marginal costs in the production of X as compared to the production of marginal costs of production of Y as we move more and more towards the right on the PP curve. We can now move to the final step of our uh, discussion regarding the general equilibrium, whereby combining what we have understood with regard to the general equilibrium of exchange and the general equilibrium of production, and we can combine the two and find out what the overall picture looks like when we combine both the aspect of the outputs and how they are distributed among consumers, and also the aspect of inputs and how they go into producing the various goods that are being demanded by the consumers. So we will be looking at, as a final step, the general equilibrium of exchange and production. Now we have the familiar production possibility curve that we had begun with, that we had finally arrived at with regard to the general equilibrium of production. And what we know is that there will be one particular combination that will eventually be produced in the marketplace. The production possibility curve gives us all the various possible output combinations that are on the contract curve of exchange of production, and all of those are possible output combinations which there will be Pareto efficiency. Which of those particular output combinations eventually gets produced, which we already mentioned, depends on the conditions on the demand side. By saying that it depends on the conditions on the demand side, what we basically imply is the fact that it depends on the ratio of the prices. So the equilibrium combination of outputs that are going to be produced out of the various possible output combinations on the production possibility curve will be such that such that at the point which is the point of equilibrium, the output combination will be the one where the ratio of the prices is equal to the ratio of the marginal rate of transformation. So for example, over here, we are assuming that the ratio of prices is given by this line, the blue line, and this line is coinciding with the tangent at point S prime. The tangent at point S prime gives us the marginal rate of transformation at point S prime, and corresponding to this point, the output of good X is 15 units, and the output of good Y is 17 units. So the economy will produce 15 units of good X and 17 units of good Y, because at that particular point the marginal rate of transformation, which is equal to the marginal ratio of the marginal cost of X to the marginal cost of Y, is equal to the ratio of the prices of the good X and good Y in the output market. So this is how we arrive at the combination of inputs that is going to be available for distribution among the various consumers in the marketplace. Having arrived at the outputs that are going to be produced out of the various possibilities from the production possibility curve, we can now decide on the distribution of uh, these outputs of X and Y. Now, we have discussed the fact that we will be producing 15 units of good X and 17 units of good Y. Now, what we can do is we can draw an Edgeworth box diagram wherein we will be having the various different possible combinations of the contract curve for exchange, which is this line, which will have the various different possibilities wherein the indifference curves of the two consumers are tangential to each other. And we pick that particular point where the slope of the indifference curves is equal to the slope of the production possibility curve. So over here, the slope of the indifference curves is equal to the slope of the production possibility curve at where the indifference curves are tangential at point S double prime, is the point where the slopes of the indifference curves are equal to the slope of the production possibility curve. Now this particular point gives us the point which will provide us the allocation or distribution of the two goods X and Y among the two consumers in the manner that we have already discussed as part of the general equilibrium of exchange. So finally, the mathematical condition that we are looking at for the general equilibrium of exchange and production is the fact that at the point where there is both a general equilibrium of exchange and production, there's an equality of the relative marginal utilities of X and Y for consumers A and B, which is also equal to the uh, marginal cost of production of X and Y. So the relative utilities for the consumers are equal to the relative marginal costs of production of X and Y at equilibrium when we are talking about the general equilibrium of exchange and production. So this becomes our final conclusion with regard to the general equilibrium, which is to say that at the point of general equilibrium of exchange and production, the relative marginal utilities of the consumers are equal to each other, which are in turn equal to the relative marginal costs of production of the two goods X and Y. So this concludes our discussion with regard to the general equilibrium theory. Thank you so much.